Attention, everybody. The views and opinions expressed on the show are not necessarily those of Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, and or their affiliate and subordinate ministries and or nonprofits. It's that time again. Buckle up, because it's the Happy Hour with your hosts, the kooky Dr. Paul Collins and his lovely wife, beautiful, the sweet Miss Nancy Collins. Take it away. Let's get happy.
Hello, everybody. Well, guess what? It's Friday morning again. Comes around the same time every week. Amazing.
I'm going to put that on your tombstone.
I'm not going to have a tombstone.
Oh, that's right.
Anyway, today is an exciting day, and you're going to want to watch this without interruption, and then you're going to be able to go back and see it again and again and again because it'll be recorded for posterity. And last week, if you recall, Miss Shirley up there in St. Joe, my first secretary, and Miss Judy down there in the Houston, Texas area, and Miss Galen down there in the Dallas Metroplex area, and Dr. Gage, MD, over there in Lubbock, and Mark Elvers in your church and all that.
And the ways.
And the Ways out there in Ransom Canyon, Texas, my Christian novelist friend, and Jerry Chambers, teenager in my church in St. Joe, who's now retired school administrator over there in Chesterfield, Missouri. All of you, and the folks in France and Germany and Pakistan, Turkey, all over the world.
Boy and how.
Welcome to the Happy Hour. We are in the southwest quadrant of the state of Missouri, which puts us right in the middle of the world. So we want to be in the middle of your world right now. Last week, I opened up with a little song, "The chimes of time ring out the news, another day is through. Someone slipped and fell, was that someone you? You may have longed for added peace, your courage to renew. Do not be disheartened, I have news for you." Remember that? Great, great song by a great songwriter who was a friend of Roy Rogers. Anyway, I also quoted trees. I sometimes think that, let's see, how does that go? I'm about to quote "The Ruby Out" by Omar Khayyam. I sometimes think that never blows so red the roses where some buried Caesar bled, that every hyacinth in the garden wears dropped in her lap from some once lovely head. There was a door to which I had no key. There was a veil through which I could not see. A little while there was of me and thee, and then no more of me and thee. But the other one was "Trees" by Joyce Kilmer. Anyway, today, at long last, I'm going to try to get Matt to change our theme song if he can get permission to the theme song for the Happy Days TV show. Oh. Now, I remember Dr. Jamie Durfee is our guest today, MD, our primary care physician. She referred to me as Richie Cunningham in her office the last time I was there, I think. Anyway, because I relate to Happy Days, the TV show. And the theme song from Happy Days is Sunday, Monday, Happy Days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Happy Days, Thursday, Friday, Happy Days. The weekend comes, my cycle hums, ready to race to you. These days are all happy and free, those happy days. And then the part that I like here is, goodbye gray sky, hello blue, there's nothing can hold me when I hold you. Great words. Feels so right it can't be wrong. Rocking and rolling all week long. Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days. Saturday, what a day. Grooving all week with you. These days are all happy days.
Guess what?
Isn't that great?
This is almost like not a very good religious thought, probably. But I think about singing and feeling that song to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, doggies. That's so awesome.
The only other man in Nancy's life is Jesus. And I play second fiddle all the time. Today we are honored to have as our guest on this Happy Hour broadcast, Dr. Jamie Durfee, MD. She's with the Cox Health Systems here. She holds forth operating out of the Cox Medical Miles Center. And if you love me, you have to love Dr. Durfee, because she's the person one of two key people who keep me alive.
That's true.
That's true.
That's true.
Dr. Durfee and Dr. Kewen, they keep me alive.
And Dr. Garner. Dr. Garner.
Oh, yeah. Well, Garner had a minor role to play. He put a pacemaker in me.
Well, that's not minor. Man,
By the way, I call it my gizzard, and I named it Buddy because I grew up as Buddy. So right here is where my gizzard is located. And it's a Cadillac. It's got 3 wires. So that's as many as you can have. I got the ultimate. But isn't it amazing that at 85 years of age, I have such a good time and I host the happy hour, and you got to love me, and therefore you got to love the lady who helps to keep me alive, Dr. Jamie Durfee. Dr. Durfee, welcome to the happy hour again. What a wonderful pleasure it is to have you as a repeat.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Listen, want to get right to it. You are a graduate of the School of Medicine at the University of Missouri at Kansas City. Is that the way they call it?
Yes.
And I went online and I did some research. What a program.
Yeah.
What a program. It's 6 years right out of high school, and you come out after 6 years with your bachelor's degree and your MD degree.
Correct.
Wow. Nancy,
she must have been a humdinger of a student.
well, you'd have to be.
Have a mind.
I looked at the schedule. I looked at the classes, and I am impressed, very impressed. I'm amazed that we don't have more schools offering that kind of program. Are there others?
I don't know for sure off the top of my head. I feel like there are, but not sure.
Well, I remember back when University of Missouri at Columbia, the flagship school, only had 2 years of medical school. The first 2 years was all. And after that, students either went to Washington University School of Medicine for the last 2 years or St. Louis University School of Medicine for the last 2 years. But of course, for many years now, MU, as we call it, has had all 4 years. And I don't know if I told you or not, but I had the opportunity to go to medical school at MU, and I felt like I'm a preacher. That's what I do. So anyway.
Well, Daddy, that happened when you were 9. You were called to preach.
I know, but I was determined. I was a pre-med student, you know. I like to tell people.
Push these back. Those are coming down.
My hair, got to look good on TV for Nancy. Sweet little Miss Nancy. Dr. Durfee, with your experience in a medical school, were they mixing some pre-med into your bachelor's degree, things that you would classify as pre-med?
Do you mean like we were taking, I guess, pre-medical classes while we were doing the bachelor courses the first 2 years?
You had some chemistry and biology and all that kind of stuff. How important was math?
Like theoretical math, not incredibly important, but practical math, very important.
That was where I had problems with pre-med. I did very well, for instance, in general chemistry. I did very well in organic chemistry. And we got into qualitative analysis. That was a whole different story. And I did not stay with it long enough to get into quantitative analysis. But my friends, the guys that I hung with, they were all pre-engineering students. They were whizzes in math. They just, it was like taking a walk for them. It wasn't for me. Math was tough. What did you find toughest about medical school?
Oh, Lord.
What did you find easiest? Maybe that'd be the easier question.
Oh, well, that's hard too. Because so long ago it was kind of a blur. The hardest thing I think was trying to adjust to the schedule. As you alluded to, it's a pretty rigorous, and it's hard to come out of high school and have my other friends go to different directions and kind of have a lot more freedom than I did. So trying to adjust to the studying schedule, because you literally had to study all the time, I think was the hardest part.
Did you live in student housing, or were you off campus?
The first year we were required to live in the dorm, and then I got my own apartment.
Now, was it easier to concentrate and study in the dorm or in your own place?
Actually, I found it the easiest to study in a group setting, and quite often we would go to Panera Bread and stay there for hours every day and study as a group.
Where is UMKC located in Kansas City?
It's, I guess...
Is that Holmes?
Yes.
Holmes.
Yep.
See, when I was in seminary in Kansas City, two of my 3 years were spent at Truman Road and Van Brunt. And when we had breaks, we hung out on the Country Club Plaza. Pooch's cafeteria, Pooch's coffee shop, coffee house, whatever it was called. And he had like 2 or 3 outlets there. I had fond memories of Kansas City. How about you?
Yes, I love Kansas City.
It's still a great city, isn't it?
Great city, yes.
I always felt like St. Louis was kind of more like Chicago and New York, kind of Eastern oriented. Even, in fact, people even have a little Eastern accent, the natives there. It was I felt like very cosmopolitan, whereas Kansas City, to me, was a cow town, like on the edge of the frontier. And I thought about the stockyards, and I thought about a great restaurant there in the stockyards. Was it the Golden Ox? I think, the Golden Ox, great restaurant. So I had fond memories of Kansas City. Now then, before we come back to your experiences at the University of Missouri at Kansas City, which, by the way, I've got some information that I researched about school, too. And I can tell you this, we should have started this program with Go Roos.
Yes, go Roos.
Go Roos. See, that's short for kangaroos, because their team is the Kangaroos. Go Roos. I read that online.
Wow.
Now, there aren't any other schools that I know of that have the kangaroo
No.
as their mascot and their school name. Roos. Kangaroos.
Kangaroos. Wow.
Okay. I want to go back to This Is Your Life, Dr. Jamie Durfee, to Maryville, Missouri. Remember that show? This Is Your. You're too young to remember. It was a great TV show. They'd bring a celebrity guest on and surprise them, and this guy would come from backstage and say, "So and so, this is your life," and they would tell that guy's life story, that woman's life story. This is your life. Maryville, Missouri, way up in the northwest corner of Missouri. How close to the Iowa line about?
Oh, like 20 minutes away, 20 minutes away.
And close to the Nebraska line.
Yeah, technically.
And how, 100 miles north of Kansas City, maybe?
Yes.
Okay. Next to St. Joseph, Missouri, which is in between Maryville and Kansas City, next to St. Joseph, Maryville, I read, is the oldest community in that, when that land was platted and turned into, when they took it away from the Native Americans.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Maryville is the second oldest community in that area. And the population is almost the same as my hometown, and almost the same as Republic, Missouri. It's around 12,000. Your little town, what was it like growing up there?
Oh, it was great. I had a fabulous childhood. In general, it's a fairly tight-knit community, obviously. We had, one public school system that you would go through, and then, of course, we had a private Catholic school, but those students joined us for high school, so really everybody was kind of all together and feels like we all grew up together.
What was what were the teams called?
So I am a spoof hound, is my mascot.
Is what was it?
It's a spoof hound.
Oh, the Spoof Hound. That's right. I read that. The athletic history of Maryville is fabulous about football and basketball. Wow, what a background they had. And some of these guys that are football fans, they need to go online and check out Maryville and the Spoof Hounds. And now, of course, Maryville became the recipient of a college, and it is now part of the university system. So Maryville has Northwestern Missouri State University, I think it's called. Isn't it? Northwest Missouri State University.
Correct.
And at one time it was Maryville College, I think. Now, in the history of Maryville, I figured out online the reason it got its name was the founder's wife's first name was Mary. What a nice thing. A man named a whole town after his wife. Nancy, if I ever establish a town, we'll call it Nancyburg.
No,
Nancy doesn't want her name on anything.
I don't want my name on one bear hair thing.
All right. Let me look more here at my notes about Maryville, how serious I was when I printed this off. County seat of Nottoway County.
Nottoway.
Nottoway.
Oh, that's precious.
Isn't that quaint?
Yeah.
And it expanded Missouri's borders into the former Indian Territory. I figured out that my paternal grandmother was most likely a descendant of the Wyandotte Indian tribe, Wyandotte, Kansas area. Maryville was platted on September the 1st, 1845, and
Wow, 100 years later, and I'd be born.
mhm.
My goodness.
Yeah, it's 100 years older than you.
Yeah.
And Amos Graham was the original settler, and he was the first postmaster. And the city was incorporated in 1856. Here's what really, this is the kind of history that people need to know. Albert P. Morehouse started the Nottoway Democrat, which became the Maryville Daily Forum. Morehouse would become governor of Missouri. How about that? The same house that he lived in would later be occupied by Forrest C. Donnell, whom I remember. Donnell became a governor after moving out of Maryville, and then a United States senator. I
Wow.
remember those guys. And as a little side note here, talking about governors, the little town of Lebanon, which is east of us here,
That's Lebanon.
yeah, Lebanon, the natives call it. Back in the 40s, the Democrat candidate for governor and the Republican candidate for governor both lived in Lebanon. Lebanon, yeah. And one was Donnelly, who was the Democrat. The other one was Bradshaw, who was the Republican. And there's a Bradshaw who has an office right here in this building, and that was his great uncle. But both the candidates lived in that one little town. All right. Now then, not only did they have good political connections in that regard, Herbert Hoover used it as his. They figured it almost was his second White House.
Wow.
How about
Really?
that? Yeah.
Maryville?
Yeah, yeah. Herbert Hoover. And Harry Truman visited there. And Hillary Clinton visited there.
I don't remember that.
Yep.
But
And
recently?
back in when she was the first lady.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Herbert Hoover owned a farm 15 miles south of town, and it was 80 acres. He had acquired it after holding the mortgage for his Stanford University class of 1895 roommate, Samuel Wilson Collins. So I think Herbert Hoover probably stole that land from my people. I probably still own that farm up there. It was his only farm. He visited it in 1933 after leaving office. His vice president, very famous man, Charles Curtis, visited Maryville on October the 4th, 1932. Harry Truman, along with Bess and Margaret, his daughter, made the last of several visits to Maryville on August 3, 1962. When
That's my birthday.
Is that right?
Yes.
He was there on your birthday, and he dedicated the current post office.
Great.
See, I'm teaching you some things.
You are. That's fabulous. Very good.
He was a member of the 129th Field Artillery Regiment in World War I in the Missouri National Guard, which is headquartered in Maryville. And so Truman commanded Battery D in the war of the when the 129th was there. And the 129th official motto is Truman's Own because of the affiliation. Truman prophetically told his troops during one of the big battles, he said, "Right now, I'm where I want to be, in command of this battery. I'd rather be here than President of the United States."
Oh my goodness.
So Maryville's had a lot of famous connections. Not only that, Maryville also had champion racehorses, horses that won the Kentucky Derby.
Oh my goodness.
Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
This is
yeah.
great.
Yeah, Kentucky Derby, the horse Elwood at Faustiana Farms, owned by Mrs. J.B. Prather, the west side of Maryville. It won the Kentucky Derby in 1904 and was the first Derby winner to have been brought about because of a woman had owned the both horses that it took to make the Derby winner. She also had connections with the second horse to be owned and bred by a woman to win the Derby, Black Gold, in 1924, and which was the great-grandchild of the namesake of the Faustiana Farm. They are two of the Kentucky Derby winners with Nottoway County connections. They had connections with Maryville in the Derby in 1938, 1941, 1944, 1948, 1949, and 1952, and in 1957 and 1958.
Wow.
So Maryville, kind of a little secret, right up there in northwest Missouri, with all these Kentucky Derby connections.
Did they have oil up there, Paul? Because black gold to me sounds like oil.
No, don't think so. Now, about football. Maryville became a football powerhouse in 1994, and the coach was Mel Giersma.
Churchma.
How did you pronounce that?
Churchma.
Oh. He became coach of Northwest Missouri State Bearcats football. Bearcats played in 98, 99, 2005, 2006, 7, 8, 9, 2013, 2015, and 2016.
My goodness.
NCAA Division II football championship games, winning in 1998, 1999, 2009, 2013, 2015, 2016. Ooh. And the Maryville High School football team appeared in 96, 2008, 2009, 2012, 2013, 2016, 2017 championship games. The dual championships have earned the town the nickname of Title Town.
Yeah.
Title Town. Huh. And school has the unique mascot of spoof hounds. Green and white for their school colors, good Irish colors. Anyway, all kinds of interesting stuff about Maryville. Now, I want to give you a little bit of information that you may not know about University of Missouri at Kansas City. Did you know that it was originally founded by the Methodist Church?
I did not know that.
It was originally founded by the Methodist Church, and they turned it over to Kansas City. It was Kansas City University, and then later on, Kansas City University, as a private school, was having a little trouble making it, so they joined the University of Missouri university system, and they've been that way for many years now. And now it's a very prominent school. But I had the whole history here of, I think they were like, when it first opened, even as Kansas City University, there was only like 200 and some odd students, and it has grown and grown and grown. And then it has all these various schools connected with it, is why it's a university, but the medical school is the part we're really interested in now with you. You are still a very young person, and the good Lord willing, the creek don't rise and the world doesn't blow apart, whatever. You're going to have a lot of years to practice medicine. Right now, let's talk about your practice as a product of KCMO School of Medicine. You've been at this during about your 10th year, as I recall last time, counting your residency time. And I think you had something over 3,000 patients. Is that right?
Probably. I haven't counted recently.
But long hours and very responsible thing to do. How do you, I don't know how to get this question across, but I'm trying to put myself sort of in your position where how do you adjust to this thing of knowing that you need to be there when it's your time to be in your office? That, you know, to be there, you're going to have X number of people you're going to be seeing all day. You're a very responsible thing, and then you go home. What's it like, a day in the life of a doctor?
It's very robotic for me now, I guess. I very much mentally compartmentalize it. So when I'm at work for 8 hours, I'm Dr. Durfee, and then when I go home, I'm not Dr. Durfee anymore. I'm Jamie Durfee. And making that switch hasn't been too hard, thank goodness. I know for some physicians it is, but not much of a challenge.
Have you looked back into history, which would have to be history for you? For me, it's part of my experience. What medicine was like before your generation, or even the generation just before you, what the practice of medicine was like?
Yes, yeah.
There is a vast difference, I would think.
Yes.
What was it that inspired you to make this very serious commitment to spend your life in the field of medicine?
Well, my earliest memory, I remember being fascinated in Mrs. Wiederholt's 4th grade class about the gastrointestinal tract. Really sparked my interest. And we had a lot of great family docs in Maryville who were great models for young people like myself. And I just put the two of those things together and decided I wanted to be a physician.
Did you, as a schoolgirl, did you like math and arithmetic?
So I didn't like it. I wasn't bad at it, but I did not like it.
Did you like, even in elementary school, things that bordered on natural science, like trees and
Yeah.
all that?
Yeah.
Have you ever gone fishing?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
My dad is an avid fisherman.
Did you fish in that lake there at Maryville? That
Mazingo.
yes,
I have.
That's a big lake.
It's
It's
been
beautiful.
a while.
I read about how they created it. Dr. Durfee, when I come to see you, I compartmentalize too, because it's in a sense, I hadn't thought about that word, but it's relevant. I feel like when I'm in that examination room waiting for you to come in, that I'm the only person that you're going to see that day. And when you come into the room, it's like I'm the whole show. This is it. I mean, Dr. Jamie Durfee, this is her whole day to look after me. But what I have to remind myself of later is that you've already, because I usually come in early afternoons, I like to roll over in the morning instead of roll out. You've already seen a lot of people, and you will see a lot of people after I leave. But you always have that laptop with you. What would happen if the laptop goes down?
Well, if the laptop goes down, then I'll be relying on my memory as far as your medical history and what medications you're on and what your most recent lab values might have been and your medication list.
This is when it becomes pretty important if you're dealing with a patient who still has their mind and et cetera, and their faculties, that the patient be an actively engaged, good, cooperative partner in their own health care. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
I carry in my wallet a list of things that I'm allergic to. Did I tell you that the latest thing added to my list, because, she doesn't keep me alive, but the other doctor you referred me to that takes care of my skin, Dr. Misterovich, finally took a piece of me and sent it off to the lab, and it came back. I was allergic to tomatoes and blue cheese.
Oh, no.
Yes.
How terrible.
Oh, tell me about it. So here I've been eating tomatoes my whole life, and all of a sudden I have late onset allergy to tomatoes, I guess. Anyway,
Oh, no.
so, que sera, sera. Let's come back to your day as a doctor. On your early day at 5 o'clock, what time are you at that office?
I usually show up between 6:30 and 6:45 to start at 7.
And what do? Do you start looking at what you've got to do that day? Or?
Yes, I definitely, there's time where I go over with my nurse who's coming in that day and what we might need to see that particular patient, and then I usually have a lot of lab work and messages and things to look at in the morning too.
Okay. About what time do you see your first patient?
7
7 o'clock.
on Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
On Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 7 o'clock. Wow. I can remember when Nancy would go to work in the dark and come home in the dark, and we'd meet each other like this, for those of you on TV, two ships in the night, so to speak. And getting up early was just a part of our routine. We'd almost automatically wake up in the mornings. That's not the case now. So to me now, 7 o'clock seems pretty early. I know when I went in to have the fourth stent put in, had to be there at 6:30. I grumbled and complained the whole time.
Well, at least you didn't have to put makeup on and do your hair.
Well, yeah, I don't have much to do about that. By the way, a local TV personality posted on Facebook the other day. She does an early morning type show. She had a picture. At 4 o'clock in the morning, she walks up to her lavatory, and there's a frog in her lavatory at 4 o'clock in the morning. A real frog.
A real?
Yeah. So
Wow.
what a way to start your day, huh? Anyway, back to your practice. What would I know we used to say general practitioner, and then we said family physician, family care, and then primary care. So is it proper now just to say primary care physician?
Yes.
I noticed in discharge papers of someone I saw the other day from the hospital that they were being referred back at a certain time to see their primary care physician. At the end of a day, when do you usually get to finish almost on time, or do you usually run?
Yes, I arrange my work in such a way that I only complete 8 hours of work in a day, and I usually finish on time, sometimes 10 minutes late.
When I was considerably younger, I remember sitting. Well, I was an adult. I was a pastor, but I remember sitting in a physician's waiting room with a number of other people. And I don't think they had specific time slots for appointments. You just kind of showed up and checked in, and they put you on the list. And I was sitting there, and I was thinking about how could I use my waiting time in the waiting room. They called it a waiting room for a good reason. And that inspired me. I was doing a radio broadcast at the time, 2 or 3 times a week. It inspired me to present a program about what to do when you're waiting. And but now I notice there's not much time in the waiting room. Unless you check in, unless you get there early, And Nancy and I usually show up a little ahead of time, but we are always in very quickly to see you, and that's a wonderful thing these days for me. Now then, with your practice, what is the skill set that's called on most of the time for you with your MD degree? What's the skill set that's called on most?
People skills, communication type is probably the biggest thing that I use every day.
I would say you're very good at it.
Well, thank you.
You
Thank
are
you very much.
very good at it. Nancy and I brag about you all the time. So if ears could burn from people being talked about in a positive way, your ears would be on fire because we talk about you a lot. I think also being a primary care physician, one of the skill sets might be being able to interpret signs, symptoms, labs.
Yep.
As part of the diagnostic procedure.
Correct. Yep. That's another big part.
Now, was there a reason why you decided to be a primary care physician rather than some other specialty? I really just enjoy kind of being a so-called jack of all trades, I guess. And I see patients from all spectrums of life. We say from cradle to grave for family medicine. So I don't ever want to claim to be an expert on anything, but I can do a little bit of everything. I think is what That's good.
led me
That's good.
there.
When I was a kid, which has been a long time ago, the doctors made house calls. The little black bag, and before the telephone, we usually sent word by somebody to go and tell the doctor. And when the doctor came, it was always a male, and he was the hero. He was the town hero. There was nobody like him. And sometimes he got paid and sometimes he didn't. If he got paid, $1 was a big paycheck because some people were working for $1 a day or less. But we had in our minds that the guy was wealthy. That was an assumption that if you were a doctor, you were wealthy. We meant rich. Such was not the case. It really wasn't the case at all. Back then, medical doctors were strictly on their own. They weren't organized into it. In fact, the hospital in my hometown was built by a local MD. And then there was a smaller one built by a local DO, because DOs, doctors of osteopathy, osteopathic medicine, had just come on the scene. And then there was another one, a little hospital that was built by the Wabash Railroad. And but that one that was built by the MD himself, I thought was a big deal, but I look back on it, it was very small, and very primitive. There were no restroom facilities at all.
Oh, okay.
And,
You mean even in the patient's rooms?
no, not in the patient. No. There was a portable facility over in the corner,
And what was? And
the Thunder Mug.
there you go.
That's what they called them.
Yeah.
That's what they called them. And nurses, you either were a nurse or you weren't. I mean, we didn't have any steps in between. And nurses did everything, including handling the portable facility. That's
Well,
just
yes.
that's the way it was. But times have changed, and I, for one, am very thankful that they've changed.
Sure. Yes. Progress is good.
And I respect modern medicine as much as anybody I know, because I remember somebody very young, very beautiful, and very brilliant, and very well trained in the field of medicine telling me about the meds that I'm on, saying they're keeping you alive. And for an 85-year-old, I'm very much alive, and I love it, and I'm so glad that I can be useful, enjoy things.
I know. Think about this, Paul Collins. Holy Spirit is number one in your life.
That's right.
So you, the meds work with the Holy Spirit to
That's
take
right.
care of you and what you're supposed to do the next 10 years.
There was
It's true.
Yeah.
way back when Oral Roberts, the healing evangelist, was on TV, but he was in black and white because these shows were done with movie film and then put on TV. He had old Bob DeWeese as his announcer, and Bob DeWeese would open up a program to introduce Oral Roberts, and he would say, "And now, ladies and gentlemen, here is the man God has raised up for your healing and deliverance, the Reverend Oral Roberts." And I was thinking this morning before we came here, I could easily say that Dr. Jamie Durfee is the lady that God raised up to head up the team to keep me alive.
That's right.
And working.
That's right.
So anyway,
That's a lot of pressure.
well, to take a little of the pressure off, I am 85.
Right.
And when you're 85, anything can happen, and they won't blame you for it. Okay.
Good point.
Back to University of Kansas City and the medical school thing. Tell us about those 6 years as best that you can. How that worked, because this is something not everybody's acquainted with.
Well, the first couple of years were on the main University of Missouri Kansas City campus, which is nearby the Country Club Plaza. I lived in the dorms, as I mentioned before, and my classes were mixed for my bachelor's and then some pre-med courses as well. And then the last 4 years were a little bit of the more intense physician-focused type science classes mixed in with patient care experiences.
What it reminds me of is frontier days when some guy would read medicine with a practicing doctor.
Yeah.
On the field, in service training.
Yeah.
So really, it's kind of gone full circle. You're able to get that academic backdrop, and then you're actually practicing medicine with a licensed physician. And see, that's the way it was done in the frontier days.
We call them docent physicians.
Docents. I was going to ask you that. I saw that online, and I meant to look it up. That's surely Greek or something or other. What's it? I know a docent is your guide, your professorial guide. I don't know
Right.
what the word means. I'm going to have to look it up.
Yeah, I guess I don't know for sure either.
It's got to be one of those words that's peculiar to the profession, because I know we had those when I was teaching college level. We had certain words that were relevant just to that particular life, and of course that's true with clergy as well. We had certain terms like I mentioned earlier before we came on the broadcast in certain church circles we talk about stewardship, and when you get out of that circle and you get into economics, you're talking about money management, that sort of resource management. But no, I find that very interesting. This thing of you're getting in 6 years, you get your bachelor's and your master's or your doctor of medicine degree. In that process, when it came time to graduate, did you have 2 graduations, 1 graduation, 2 degrees? How did they do that for you?
I just had one graduation at the very end. But I think you are invited to the other graduation earlier, the big graduation. I don't think I went, though.
But you had the option if you wanted to walk through the line and get your bachelor's degree handed to you, you could, or you could just wait and walk through the line. How many were in your graduating classes for a medical doctor?
I think it was around 120.
That's a good class. Mm-hmm. And how do we stand these days as to the supply of medical doctors?
I believe there's a shortage, a well-known shortage.
Do you see any way to help with that situation?
Right now, we are heavily educating and recruiting mid-level providers, so nurse practitioners and physician assistants, to help with that burden. It'd be nice if we had more doctors, though, too. I think.
I notice you have students accompany you into the treatment room, the exam room. I don't know, every few times that we're there, and I'm always glad to see them because I think, wow, we need them. We need them coming on. I know approximately your age, so I know about when you were born, and I'm thinking what I was doing at that time and where we were living at that time. And it becomes very relevant to me when I see a young person coming on that somebody has to study medicine to take care of us. You know, everybody, we need medical personnel. We need the doctors, we need the nurses, we need all the others and the specialists and so forth. But it begins with primary care. It really does. That's where it starts. Nancy and I have had some friends who were in the medical field over the years. One was not only a primary care physician, but he was also an ordained minister. And this is a story that we've never told you that you'll like. When Nancy was working in her early years at Maranatha, Nancy always did geriatric nursing. They had an older lady in her 90s as a resident who was an ordained minister and a medical doctor. Now, we're talking, this was 30 years ago.
Every bit of third.
So now she'd be 120. So think how many, when she went to medical school, women didn't go ordinarily.
Right.
We're way back there. And I need to research that to see where she got her training. She may have been one of the last that learned by going with the doctor. Who knows? Anyway, she was quite a woman and a woman of prayer. And whoever was sitting with her that day, the old Dr. Williams was on her back.
She was in bed.
In bed, on her back, and she had her hands because she was praying. And that's how she died.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that something? She
Yeah.
died praying.
Wow.
But she was unique for her time to be, an ordained minister for a woman was unique, and then to be a medical doctor too was very unique. Where do you see medicine going in the future? Do you have any idea or any thoughts about where it might be going?
I think that technology is going to kind of take over quite a bit like it has in other areas. I think there's going to be a lot of, like, for example, now you can do an EKG on your phone and, send that to physicians. We have lots of online resources for if you need to see a physician, we can, get on and see somebody instantly. So I think it's definitely going to go that way. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What about some of the other areas that are developing now, like nurse practitioners? Do you see that as a growing field?
I do right now, and I think definitely if we are surprised by something like a single-payer healthcare where everybody has access, I think that field will continue to grow for sure because we will need those folks.
Of course, we know a nurse practitioner would be a step down from a primary care physician, but it would be in that line, whereas physician's assistants are primarily backing up people in specialties. Am I right about that?
That's kind of the atmosphere here in Springfield, at least. Yeah.
when we'd like to have you on again sometime, and we can think about this ahead of time. And when you're ready, you let us know, and we'll work it out to have you on, because I'd really like for us to go back into, and this we can both be preparing about this, some of the history of the development of various medical disciplines, because I remember when osteopathy began. I remember. Yes.
1 minute.
1 minute. And I remember the beginnings of chiropractic. I remember the beginnings of podiatry and so forth. And I think it'd be good to go back and take a look and see how all these disciplines have come to pass. And then there's a certain melding or molding together in some areas. For instance, Dr. Misterovich is a DO. And then I know a little town near here, the only doctor they have is a nurse practitioner who happens to be a man. So that's a development. Anyway, folks, we're running out of time. What a joy to have had Dr. Durfee here as our guest. We're so thankful for her. She is our primary care physician. She looks after Nancy. She looks after me. And we're very thankful for that. We give God thanks regularly, daily, for Dr. Durfee and the other members of the medical team that you have referred us to, and so forth. But we'll be back again next Friday, and we have some interesting guests coming up. We'll have a lady from Poland whose husband was involved in the Solidarity meeting. We'll have Dr. Durfee back. We have some other people in mind. In the meantime, we want you all to have a wonderful day, a great week, and remember that it's very important that you stay blessed. Until next time.